Let's talk about second order effect, because I think the second order effect of something is what's really ruining your video games. Not just ruining them as in, oh, I have an extra thing to be a bit angry about because I don't like these microtransactions. No, ruining them as in just completely wrecking the experience because of bad incentives. This is something that I would view as being directly responsible for me falling out of loads of AAA gaming as of late. I just can't stand it, and it is something that I think as time goes on, we're just trained to see.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be a bit of a wake-up call.
I think people are going to listen to this and maybe kind of come to an understanding of why they've really not cared about AAA, but like in a way that they really feel.
Yes. I now so vehemently want less video game.
Yep.
Or at the very least, I want not a short one. I want a reasonable sized game that's actually good, instead of loads of padding and stuff. So we're going to get into this. Right. One of the ways that people used to judge games, and some people still do, is expected playtime. I would say that if maybe too much games are being judged by hours per pound, then, well, I don't think that's a great way of judging things.
Yeah, it's not, of course.
I think, you value your time more, frankly, I would say. So, despite decades of us figuring out language and genres and all of that stuff, the quality of a game is obviously a very subjective thing. And that means that sometimes we like to find an objective thing to latch onto, to talk about, right? So like a long game could be marketed as a big epic adventure. Runtime could even be a back-of-the-box feature. People are thinking about, oh, wow, games, we want them to be long. Now, actually, this is something that you should all know. Say venture capital. It is not about making good games anymore.
Nope.
It is about making 1,000-hour games. It is about making 10,000-hour games. And obviously there's a lot of good in a 10,000-hour game like League of Legends.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But not all games should be that. However, what the big money interests are actually interested in is that. It is the 1,000-hour plus game. It is the just not a one-shot, you sit down, you play it, and you're happy game. That's not what anyone's really that interested in making as much anymore.
Yep, they're no longer interested in what experience you have, because that doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
But your attention pays the bills. Your engagement does.
In fairness, there has been degenerate bullshit going on in games for a long-ass time.
Since their very inception.
Yes. Arcades. Those games were not always balanced to have a satisfying difficulty curve. They were balanced to get, well, in your case, if you're in America, balanced to get quarters out of you.
Yep.
We don't have quarters here, but
no.
if you're an American, it was all to get those quarters. Right? And, of course, for the first console games, that sort of thing of the ridiculous difficulty, or, it's just some of those odd quirks.
Yeah, Nintendo hard is a term people still use.
Well, that would make a game feel worth its asking price, because it would take so much longer to beat the damn thing.
Yeah, it's occupied you for, you've got a week out of it, 2 weeks out of it, 3 weeks out of it.
Yeah.
As opposed to, wait, this game is like 40 minutes long? What the hell?
Plus, as well, you're a kid, so you're just rubbish at games, and you don't really... Yeah. Of course, as you point out here, $50 in 1983 is $140 in buying power today.
Yep.
Games were expensive back then, right? Of course, save games have become invented, all of that stuff. And, we still did have things like a 50-hour JRPG. Sometimes, though, those can be very padded out by random battles and bullshit. Sometimes even, the collectathons like Spyro and Jack. We remember the ones that had really good pacing and felt very satisfying.
Yeah.
But for all of that, there's other stuff that had loads of padding and wasn't a super satisfying thing.
Yeah, I think one of the worst ones that I can think of is Donkey Kong 64, where that was Rare, because obviously people love Rare for the Donkey Kong Country games, and they love the collectathon stuff in Banjo-Kazooie, but Donkey Kong 64 was a very rough version of that, where it was just clearly padding at runtime as opposed to being extra good content, and it's kind of like the same technique, but one was used for good, one was used for evil per se.
Why did I collect all of the little flags in Assassin's Creed 1? To this day, I don't have an answer. Now, the point why we bring this up is that Dustin Bailey of PC Games N threw up just a nice little opinion piece. It's really about his experience playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And it's something that resonates with me because I used to love the Assassin's Creed games. That would be a part, up until Assassin's Creed 3, that was a part of every Christmas. It was, you get the new Assassin's Creed game, you get all cozy, and you just get immersed in it and enjoy it. You know, that Ezio trilogy, or for so many of us, you know, that was the business. So his article, time sinks like Assassin's Creed Valhalla are ruining games, not microtransactions. Now, I think he still contends that the microtransactions are an issue.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about is second order effects, and how even if you don't, you know, just don't buy the microtransaction, lol, forehead, you're still impacted. And it's very easy to do it, just don't buy the thing, but you're still impacted. And one of the things, I see this so much with the World of Warcraft store mounts are fine because WoW token, you can just buy it with gold. Because people don't think about second order effects. People are, I mean, just generally, I think, you know what, we're not trained, like the school system doesn't train people to think in first principles, to think of second order effects, to think in terms of complex systems. We're taught very much to know facts and just very, you know, very direct things. Oh, I can link this to that. There we go. That's my thing.
Yeah, and I mean, for a very brief explainer of what second order effect and first order effect actually means is, you know, first order effect is doing something has this exact result. But then that thing that happens as a result of the first order, that also has consequences. So it's like, you know, action has consequence, but every consequence of an action also has a consequence. And then you've got second, third, so on order effects. Yeah,
ad nauseum, right?
Then you
forever.
get, I guess, chaos theory as a result of that. You know, butterfly flaps its wings, air current shifts, oh, tornado, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So he's specifically talking about Assassin's Creed Valhalla and addressing recurrent consumer spending. We love some of the old RCS, don't we? Yeah, so the point he raises is that one of the major issues of recurrent spending as a target, that it's not actually the microtransactions. And that in a way, yeah, you can say that the defenses of them being cosmetic and entirely optional are usually true. They are.
Yeah.
So why, as somebody who doesn't buy that shit, does it piss me off? Well, what he's getting at is that the design of the game changed to support the recurrent spending in ways that are more than just the first order effects. Now, there's the extremely obvious ones that you guys already know, okay? Time savers. So, you know, you can pay for an XP boost. And then that makes you think, what would the normal leveling curve be like if this boost didn't exist?
Would it be better? Obviously, possibly. Who knows?
Yeah. Cosmetics on the store taking the place of earned cosmetics. This is a very self-explanatory one. Halo Infinite's a perfect example. I mean, even remember getting recon armor. That was basically the storyline of RB and Chief. I mean, if the story there was Chief has to go and steal the Arbiter's credit card to buy the recon armor, actually,
that would still be really good.
was there even a plot line in it? I forget exactly, but you guys get the point, right? You know, there's the armor in Halo Infinite means fuck all. I adore that game, by the way, but ugh, you know, free to play has absolutely sucked. In a way, it hasn't sucked because there's a Halo game that does well with loads of people playing. That's great for me, but also it does suck in other ways.
Yep.
And you know, we're now at the stage where we're actually pining for the old school experience of unlocking a thing that looks cool in a game.
Yep.
Especially if you think if you're a Destiny 2 fan.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially with how, you know, cool fashion Destiny and fashion frame can be. But the point that Dustin's really raising here is a more insidious one. And this is when I really like to think about, you know, one of the great chief bullshit mongers of the industry, Big Eves, CEO of Ubisoft, when he's all saying, oh, you know, I want to make a 100-hour game that houses loads of 12-hour experiences. It's like, Eves, fuck off. You're really telling me that you're trying to squeeze 2 Assassin's Creed, or maybe 3 or 4 Assassin's Creed 2s into a new Assassin's Creed game? Bullshit. They don't feel like that to play. So Dustin is using Assassin's Creed 2 as an example. The design of the game was that it was a single-player game. You put it in your console or whatever, you played it, you had some fun. And if you really liked it, then, oh, maybe the DLC is something you buy because you really wanted more of that experience. This is games as I think consumers would want them to be.
Yeah.
With Valhalla, though, it's got daily quests. It's got community challenges. It's got seasonal events. It has a giant skill tree with free respecs, with patches adding skills. Which then he looks at that and he's like, oh, wait. What if this was just a one-shot game and it was smaller? Would we actually have a way better designed, you know, skill tree? With tighter designed gameplay that would actually end up being way more fun instead of a big hodgepodge. This is where we start to think. You look at, I mean, even as an example, look at the gameplay of Guardians of the Galaxy versus Marvel's Avengers.
Precisely.
You know, when one thing is designed to be a one-shot experience, it's brilliant. Whenever it is trying to be a good one-shot experience for the campaign, but then also have all the other stuff, suddenly everything's sloppy. Everything feels sloppy. It doesn't feel as good.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I didn't think about that comparison at all, but I think that is possibly one of the strongest comparisons on this topic you could make, because one is literally, here is sludge in concept of the video game, and the other one is, here is that sludge, but we did it properly. We did it in the way that we think, is actually more, I guess it's more consumer friendly by default, but it's also just, this is how games, I don't want to say should be, but how a lot of us feel they should be. Yeah. Overall. And
then this is the thing that he brings up, and this is actually what partially shattered, to be honest with you, my attachment to the Assassin's Creed franchise. He also claims the story isn't paced to be satisfying over a few dozen hours, but it is built to string you along so you get wrapped up in events and patch drops. I've generally found the narrative quality to be on the decline for those games. They're just less interesting. And I mean, I am the direct target audience. I fucking love history. You get, you tell me that I can just be rambling around with Da Vinci, or hey, there's Herodotus. That is uber cummies. And I do feel like that has been eroded. Now, some of that is that I've changed a little bit.
Yeah.
But I also do think that younger me, who loved an Assassin's Creed 2-like game, and also was playing MMOs, I still think that younger me would see the modern, just stretching it all out and be not that happy. And it's the thing, I think. We only have Assassin's Creed Valhalla because Assassin's Creed, I think 2 especially, got everyone in that franchise.
Yeah.
And now you can sort of trade off the name, and you can make all of those quality sacrifices that are in the name of making a more monetizable product.
Yeah, they did the hard work by making the really great thing that you loved. And now they're trading in that name, but also they're kind of, they know what bar they have to hit to keep you coming back, and it's substantially lower because you made the sale, or they made the sale rather. They made the sale back then, they did the hard work, and now they, not to say this is what any of the developers think or feel, because they're clearly not, resting on their laurels. They're working extremely hard to make loads of stuff. But as it feels to like the consumer playing it, it's like, oh, you did the hard work back then, and now you're just sort of giving up on, fuck it, they'll take whatever they want. They're regulars here now.
Yeah, look, behind all the bullshit, there are passionate developers. I mean, for Battlefield 2042, I was listening to Tom Henderson's big video where he seemingly got a lot of ex-devs and stuff. You just get that sense, these are all actually really passionate people. They're trying their best. It's just the powers that be.
Yep.
And of course, pointing out that this all feels very similar to free-to-play games such as Genshin Impact. It's a new game I heard about a few weeks ago. As an example, it has a slowly unfolding story with regular teases and revelations. It's all built to be consumed piecemeal, to sort of keep you on going, instead of just you sit down, you play the thing, you're very satisfied, and it's very memorable.
Yeah, but obviously that's its DNA as a free-to-play game. Genshin's it's built that way, as opposed to it shouldn't be built that way because the historical basis is it being this great story game. No, it's just, they do it this way because it's how the game is, as opposed to some bullshit feeling.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's just lots of subtle elements of the design that get changed. Even look at some of the Tom Clancy games.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to make big money from a PvE Tom Clancy game if you're going with a traditional Rainbow Six. No, if you want that very tactical, very, one shot and you're dead gameplay, you're going to have to do that PvP. Because with Ghost Recon Wildlands, that actually, by all accounts, really grew into a really fantastic game that people loved.
Definitely.
But when it still has to play like a tactical shooter, you're playing a tactical shooter. You can't really get the gearing loop that maybe you have in the Division. So then what do they do with Breakpoint? Think about all the changes that were made there. This is another example, I think, of what is being talked about here. Instead of just getting your gun, unlocking your things, and being satisfied with it, now you're thinking about gear score. Now you're thinking about grinds. I think at some point we need to do a video called, How Diablo Murdered Gaming.
That's a really good one.
I like Diablo, but some of this shit has just went too far, and it's being applied out of context so obviously to just make Skinner boxes to target our goopy gamer brains that like to see numbers go up. Basically, I want to do a whole channel just constantly about breaking the conditioning.
Yeah.
That's really the thing with AAA. Kind of going subtly wrong, you know? Always just getting more of that hyper-effective Skinner box in. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, it's the monetization that drives this in such a way that even if you ignore the monetization, it actually impacts humongously the basic video game that you are playing.
Yeah.
Changes the design.
Yeah. It's like, I think to me, it's like the evolution of monetization, where it started off with horse armor's DLC. And everyone's like, okay, sure, I'll buy the horse armor. They're like, wait, they'll buy cosmetics? Oh shit, let's go. But as with, you know, how many years ago is that now? 14 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, they're evolving. And I don't know exactly how many, you know, psychologists and player behavioral stuff are hired at these companies. Like, obviously, Ubisoft are one of the worst for it. But then, obviously, Anthem did a lot of the same things over at EA, which was, you know, obviously a crying shame. But it's evolved their strategies. And instead of thinking, okay, well, we know people will buy, so they know what to sell us now. They figured out what to sell us, but they haven't figured out exactly what makes us buy this stuff, ideally.
Yeah.
So that's what they're hyper optimizing now. It's like the Skinner box is pretty handy. They've designed that sort of okay for us, but now they're just hyper optimizing. Okay, well, it's attention. It's the fact that you're here. It's your investment in this, but it's not your emotional investment, because you'll just leave and you won't play. You'll think about it instead of playing. But when you're playing, when you're logged in, that's when we'll get the sale out of you. So they've figured out that the almost like the number that correlates best with money in from player, that recurrent player spending, is amount of playtime. And they cannot track the quality of playtime, so it's just amount of playtime.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny, I now think about the games that I've been playing more in my free time recently.
Yeah.
And Alan Wake Remaster is one example. Homeworld,
It's just a game.
PC RTS.
Just a game.
Just a game. Even, you know, the Resi remakes.
Mm-hmm.
Just a game. Not that they're going to suddenly give me gear score in a Resi or something, but I mean, I don't know about you guys. See, that's the thing. Maybe there's a lot of people who really do actually, they just want an Assassin's Creed themed grindy Skinner box, because some of the desire there is, you know, they want the world immersion and stuff, but just, I actually do want hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
Not exactly sure, to be honest, but it fills me with just a little bit of worry about where gaming is going and kind of what the trendsetters are. You know, I wonder, because like, this is me and you having grown up playing a lot of these games that just came out being good games as they should be.
Yeah.
You know, before a lot of those business trends came in. We saw all these trends come in as we grew up with gaming, but now younger people who play video games, they're going to take all of this stuff as default. They're going to take these design elements as just the way that it is. You know, maybe they'll have a situation where if they go and they get a new Assassin's Creed that, let's just say, is a very traditional one, it doesn't last anywhere near as long. Maybe they're going to think, well, this game's a really bad value. It didn't last as long. Oh, I couldn't grind out gear as much because... Or, you know, and maybe it's going to turn out that they can break the conditioning because it's all they've known.
Yeah, I think that
fills me with a lot of fear.
That's the thing that annoys me more than anything else. It's the fact that these AAA full price releases are having this stuff, where I think it's perfectly fine for a Warframe to exist. It's perfectly fine for Path of Exile to exist. It's great that those are there. I mean, I've been playing an obscene amount of FF14, and I know I'm mature enough and I understand games enough to sit down and go, okay, I understand this contract. You're going to ask a substantial amount of my time. It's not always going to be fun, but I'm going to have world immersion. I'm going to give those people there because it's an MMO. That's all fine. I understand that contract.
So what's your self-awareness out of 10 when you're grinding Fates?
It's probably a nice, 7 or 8, depending on the time of night. So I'm just I know what I'm doing. I know I'm doing this for bullshit that doesn't particularly matter, but I've chosen this is my sort of realm. And I can see other people doing that. But I think that's a problem when that becomes the industry's sole focus because it's what monetizes best. With FF14, I know it's not purely for monetization because they don't do any of that bullshit. But then you go to especially a franchise that was single player oriented, that was this like great experience. It was like, oh yeah, this is why we love games. Like, I feel like that's in terms, it's almost like there's a food pyramid of games. And now the food pyramid is just, saying, oh yeah, well, 80% of your gaming time is got to be grinding because that's what all the experts say. You're like, that's bullshit. What about the experiential part of it? That I think people kind of love games for a little bit more overall. Whereas the new content, the fun stuff to do, as opposed to just, why is every game a grindfest? So why is every game an Anthem or an Outriders or something like that?
Guess fucking what, Matt?
Yeah.
Guess what? Do you know what I love when I read a book, listen to an audiobook, watch a movie, watch a TV show? Loads of patting. And the games industry, because this is something we saw on TV. Now, one of my favorite shows of all time is Battlestar Galactica. I will still admit, because Battlestar Galactica was made in an era of, the network television where you were looking at a 24 episode season. I also like Stargate SG-1, the likes of that. They just had to make a lot of TV show, lots of slots to fill. And sometimes you get a filler episode, you get a low budget episode, you just get that stuff and whatever. And what is the transformation that television has made? It's actually not been, it's not been like, and for The Expanse Season 6, we're bringing you 40 episodes. No, in fact, it's 6. That's not, the way that TV has went is giving us less in terms of runtime, but good and well-paced and designed not always to be watched super, strung along week to week to week so that, this amount of programming will get this amount of, this much syndication money that will fill this many ad spots. The business model has changed. And now I think a lot of them are realizing with their TV shows is actually, no, this TV show is a really fucking important tentpole to our entire big thing. So we need to make sure it's damn good and that people don't get bored and wander off. And that's what frustrates me with so much of gaming these days. It's like gaming's went in the opposite direction. Yeah. These big, padded, bloated messes. Yeah. And ultimately, we have a situation where the Netflix CEO, 5 years ago said that their biggest competition is sleep. 3 years ago said that Netflix's biggest competition is Fortnite and video games. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the ways that these big TV companies are trying to get our attention is to be like, hey, this TV show is an event. It's 6 episodes. It's 8 episodes a season. It's super well paced. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time. And like gaming has just kind of went and done the opposite. It's been like, hello, we are the Katamari of your time. Well, we will steal it all.
Do you want to know possibly why and why it works? Whereas it doesn't work for TV anymore. They go, okay, we know people are interested in experience and their time is valuable to them overall. It's because of interactivity. I think that's what it is. It's because of Skinner box where you if you're sitting down and the TV isn't entertaining you, you'll flick over to something else. But that's because you're disengaged because you're not actually doing anything. Or, maybe you've got a bucket of popcorn, you're happy enough to sit and eat all of that while you're watching something that doesn't really engage you. But then you're playing video games.
So you have a Viking constantly fidget spinner.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So you're sitting there and you're just constantly playing the game and you're constantly doing something. So you're basically extremely low level engaged, which means you never have that step back to go, what the fuck am I doing here? You're just constantly engaged. And I think that's why it's working, whereas it isn't working for TV. But as a counterpoint, obviously there's the indie side of games that is actually going, no, fuck you, we're going to be a good experience. Yeah. So it's not every game is doing this, but the problem is that it's the most visible games. It's the biggest games. It's the AAA games. It's the ones that have all the marketing space, all of the, shelf space. And that's kind of, I guess, informing what video games are as a whole. Almost in the same way that the kind of, the Steam ban in China kind of could have the impact of damaging what game culture could be at its best. This has the effect of just going, no, well, this isn't what games are about. This is just wasting people's time and their lives, because the more you get them low level engaged, the more money you make off them. You're not actually improving their life or making it better. You're just giving them a way to throw their time into the abyss.
Yeah, that's why I think the attention economy, it can probably only exist in, there's obviously feedback loops and stuff, but I think it's a pretty damning, it's just a pretty damning, I don't know, whatever for society.
Indictment, yeah.
An indictment of society that, and just whatever the general human experience in this modern hellscape, that, you know, so much of what we are craving sometimes isn't, I mean, it's that weird, like, wish for digital work that I think so many games with the Skinner boxes that they fashion, and it's almost like sometimes that old school thing of like, let's say I'm playing CS because I want to be really good at CS and I love it. Or I'm playing this because it's a really great story and, you know, it's well paced and all of that. And, you know, when it's done, it's done. And now we're really moving towards how can we Diabloify this thing? How can we stretch this thing out? How can we get this to fill, you know, even more of the void that our customers want filled? And there's just something I feel sort of deeply sad about it. And it could get worse, because one of the things in Dustin's article he finishes with is this little portent of doom. Phrases like play to earn haven't yet made the transition from investor calls to AAA gaming. Getting close. Well, they're close enough to taste. Yeah, look at Ubisoft. Your time is more valuable than your money, and even game publishers are starting to wise up to that fact. Yeah. You could be worth more money as a rat running around Bobby's maze than a just straight up regular paying customer. And that is a bit spooky. I worry about that. And obviously what that's kind of speaking to is play to earn. Because what play to earn basically is trying to just get you to work in a digital economy for next to $0 per hour.
Yep.
That's basically it. They all want you to be workers in their digital economy that they preside over, that they get a cut of all the economic activity, you know, in. But because this entire thing is predicated on you not really valuing your own time that much, it means that any of the things that apply in, say, a work relationship, like, hey, I would like an hourly rate that's reasonable, those don't apply here in games because people serially disrespect themselves and undervalue their own time. Like, seriously, you're important, you're special. I really do think that. And I think everyone deserves better than what they're getting these days. But what the companies want you to do is just get sucked in to a silly digital economy so that they can skim money off the top. Yep. That's what Ubisoft Quartz is all about. And it's basically predicated on seeing you as a fucking lemming.
And that's what Dustin highlights the Breakpoint NFT specifically in his article, saying it's 600 hours of gameplay, which is 25 days of your life, and they're offering an NFT for that. Which, you know, what value is it?
Yeah.
Who knows? But it's 25 days of your life, that's a long time. I mean, I've had such an incredible time playing FF14. I've played it for about 1,200 hours. The idea of spending half of that in Breakpoint for an NFT makes me feel ill. Yeah.
Yeah, so look, there is a there is a machine to rage against here.
Yep.
Because it just wants to turn you into a unit of production in a fake economy that one of these companies owns. That's it. It's predicated it's predicated on you essentially being worthless. And this is how the business people see it. I think a lot of the game designers, some of them are blind to this. I think a lot of them fucking hate it. You can look at all this stuff of Ubisoft developers seeing what their own company's doing and just thinking, oh God, what if they put that into my game? Oh God, what if they make me do the next, you know, part of their stupid NFT scheme? And that's it. So, you know, I think the core message of this video is actually you're worth a hell of a lot and you generally deserve a lot better. And it's not the direct microtransaction. If you're just thinking about the amount of fun that you have in a game, it's not about the microtransaction. It's about the cost of the microtransaction being there, even if you don't buy it. It is there, that cost.
It is.
So there you go. You know what? Cheers, Dustin. I think this was a fun little topic you raised and, you know, a nice little thing for us to riff off.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's how we spent our New Year's Eve. All right. I'm going to celebrate later on by, well, maybe not later on, but I'm going to continue playing games that respect my time and are great, like Alan Wake Remaster. After that, I want to play Control. I'm playing Homeworld. I want to play Homeworld 2.
Yeah.
You know? I want to play these games that respect my time.
Same.
And that's one of the reasons why World of Warcraft has been troubling for me lately, while Final Fantasy XIV has been more exciting. I'm happy to put more time into it because I feel like my time is respected.
Yeah, that's the fun thing. It's just like, it's a case where, that's why I think the MMOs and FTP stuff is completely fine if they respect the player, which I think a lot of them do. Some, not so much, but some of them do. FF14, for example, respects it by having an absolute shit ton of content and having very little that keeps you attached to the game, outside of a couple of things like your house going away if you spend too long away. But generally speaking, it's content. Like you were saying about digital work, and I was like, yeah, actually, it's funny because I did spend 5 hours yesterday mining in FF14, but I didn't because the way that game treats you is, you know, this is content. It's not just clicking the same thing over and over again. You have story quests. There are characters that you meet. There are characters you interact with. You come out of it feeling like, oh, that was something. Like there's just this cute little story about a professor and like his assistant who are like deeply in love with each other, but neither one of them won't like realize it or admit it because they're too stupid, and you just have to like go and get them stuff to help them like hang out with each other. And that's what mining in that game is, as opposed to just, you know, sitting there with your brain in the fog going click click click. It's wild.
I have a final thing. This is part of why I really enjoyed my FF14 time. It's also a part of why I kind of struggled with Star Wars: The Old Republic on launch, but really enjoyed it when I jumped into a video that I did 4 or 5 years ago over on what's now labeled as our Warcraft channel. In SWTOR, initially, you just had to do everything to level up. Now, they did a revamp where you could just follow the main storyline, and that would give you enough XP to keep your character at level. So you just play it like a big single-player story. And after they did that revamp, it was so much better paced. It was so much more enjoyable. It was, at some points, actually kind of really, really gripping. I mean, the Sith Warrior storyline, great. It was brilliant. It's interesting that whenever I didn't feel like I was doing all of the padding bullshit content and I was just playing the main thing, I was having a brilliant time.
Yep.
And sometimes I will think about, you know, some of the modern AC games, and it's like, what if in Ezio's journey, you were, let's say Assassin's Creed 2, you had that quantity of just padding and just kind of like fillery content? It would mess it up. And in fairness, that's actually something that even within the Ezio trilogy of games and stuff, like they did start, it's like, why do we need a tower defense minigame in our Assassin's Creed? What's going on? But I think that's maybe a decent way for people to sort of think about that. Like, why is it that SWTOR finds so much positive sentiment and so much success whenever they allow you to skip all of the fillery lemmingy bullshit and just actually go there for the main event and enjoy it? And suddenly, you know, your sentiment from your players goes up. Like, that's worth thinking about.
Yeah.
That game with more hours of game time to complete was not a game that I would play. With less hours to complete and more focus and less padding, it was a game that I really enjoyed. Worth thinking about.
I'm actually reminded of How Long to Beat, because How Long to Beat, I was about to say in my lifetime, in the past like maybe 10 years, I've noticed, at least anecdotally, in how I engage with it and how people I know and like see online engage with it, it's less now a thing of, oh, how long is this game? I want to make sure I'm getting value for my money. It's now, how long is this game? I don't have that much time in the day and I want to, you know, can I finish it in a week while I can focus my attention on it for a week? And that's how people are going, oh yeah. Oh, the game, yeah, it's 16 hours main story, 200 completionist. Yeah, I can finish that story in like, you know, a couple days this week. I'll buy the game and have fun. Or to measure how they can get through their backlog. So it's just that interesting thing of time, you know, at some point in the past, maybe 10, 12 years, the balance definitely did shift. And I think the more people that are aware of it, the generally better will be.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. Look, I think our message here is just think about what the big businesses are doing. Think about how they see you. And most importantly, put yourself first. Respect your own time. You are worth it. You deserve to have the best experience. Just keep that in mind. You know, you're great. Don't let them treat you like shit. And we will see you next time.